Throughout human history, certain coins were considered international currencies. Coins considered to be so trustworthy that they were accepted far and wide, much farther away than the borders of their respective issuing states. Examples of these coins are the Athenian owl, the Roman denarius or the aureus, the Achaemenid daric, the Alexander the Great tetradrachma, the Spanish piece of 8, among others. But if there's one particular type of these international currencies that really fascinates me, it has to be the Solidus. From the year 312 to 192 AD, so for nearly 8 centuries, it became the main coin for big transactions and international trade around the Mediterranean and beyond. You could pretty much go from the shores of Britain all the way to the Indian subcontinent, show one of these lovely gold coins, and any merchant would be very happy to accept it. Where was this particular piece minted? Constantinople, the great capital of the Eastern Roman Empire. This one was struck between the years 565 and 578 AD, under the Emperor Justin II. I'm very proud of this purchase, and it has quite a lot of historical content in it. So how about we take a look? First, we need to take a look at its issuer, Justin II. Poor Justin had it rough in his reign, in part due to his own fault. He was the successor of the great Justinian, and what can we say, he didn't have luck, nor was he competent. He inherited the empire in a state of financial crisis due to Justinian completely blowing away the empire's money reserves to pay for his military campaigns, but Justin was too stingy. He also thought it was a good idea to save money, disturb the status quo of the times, ceasing to pay his many neighbor kingdoms subsidies, tribute, so they wouldn't attack, and failing to conduct military campaigns to defend the territories of the attacks that eventually came. There are a lot of interesting things we can make out of this coin, but first, as it's customary here, let's have an overall look at the main features of the designs. On the obverse, we have the facing bust of the emperor, wearing his ceremonial armor, wearing a crested helmet, which looks more like a very elaborate crown, very typical of emperors of the time. He holds in one hand a globe, with a small winged victory crowning him, and on the other hand his shield. The legends proclaim his imperial titles: Dominus Noster, our Lord; Justinus, Perpetuus or Eternal; Augustus, Emperor. Heading to the reverse, we have a seated image of Constantinople, literally the incarnation of the imperial capital itself, holding a staff, symbol of power, of rulership, and a globe cruciger, which was a cross over an orb, symbolizing the rule of Christ over the world. The legends read, Victoria Augustorum, the victory of our emperors. Under Constantinopolis, we also see the letters, the word, the abbreviation, CONOB. So it's an abbreviation for Constantinopolis Obrisiacum, literally meaning refined or purified gold from Constantinople. Interestingly, notice that the legends are on the plural. But by the time of Justin, there were no more Western emperors. The West had fallen. This could be due to two things. Or an allusion to Sophia and Tiberius, his co-regents, which I don't particularly think is likely, or this might actually be a degeneration of the coin style. And let me explain what I mean by that. You see, the eastern half of the empire was always Greek-speaking. Latin was an official language, alongside Greek of course, but it was never primarily used. And after the fall of the West, it was basically relegated to official ceremonies and for coinage, but it was getting harder and harder to find anyone fluent in Latin, let alone a die engraver fluent in Latin. So this might be just the case of an engraver copying early designs and perpetuating a mistake. This is very interesting. Here we see the transition from the Latin-speaking Byzantine Empire to the Greek-speaking empire. In fact, if there's something that we can call this coin, it is transitional. This is a perfect example of a transition from the old Roman style of coinage and a more characteristic Byzantine later style, from the traditional coinage style of antiquity to a more medieval style of art. For that, we might want to take a little tour on the history of Roman coinage. Let's go back to the year 312 when the Solidus was first introduced. Here we have an example of a Solidus struck under Constantine. It is definitely different to the marvelous coins of the early empire, with its realistic portraits. Here we have a schematic image of Constantine. Yet, this is still a coin that follows to the book the Roman style of coinage. A side-looking bust of the emperor, a laurel wreath, his imperial titles on the legends, and on the reverse some sort of propaganda image referring to the emperor. And you know what? This type of image makes perfect sense. Think about it. The idea of the bust on a coin is to show clearly who's in charge, so you know very well who rules over you. So let's say you're in Rome, taking care of your business, and all of a sudden you hear, "Make way for the emperor." You step aside, and this entourage of people in fancy clothes and shiny armor starts passing by. Who is the emperor? Well, you know very well who the man is by looking at his coins, so you know how his profile looks like, how he looks like from the side, and you've just been pushed to the side to open way for him, so you will see him from the side, from his profile. But around that time, that is the 4th century AD, we start seeing stylistic changes to the coinage that break away with this tradition. For example, Constantine's colleague and eventual rival, Licinius, came up with coins with a front-facing portrait. That's a very impactful coin in my opinion. Not only Licinius is giving us that, that death stare, but Jupiter on the reverse is also looking straight at us. Notice how the lips are rendered quite crudely, how the whole bust looks kinda odd. This is likely a sign that the engravers simply did not know how to make that kind of design. And we can't blame them. Roman die engravers have been making side-facing busts for 4 centuries by that time. Why the hell did they ask me to make a front-facing portrait? It's not gonna look good. But it seems like this front-facing idea caught up rather successfully. This style was refined, and by the very late empire, front-facing busts like this Solidus of Theodosius we have right now on the screen were quite common. As we can see, the new concept was refined with a 3/4 facing bust. The eyes, nose, and the mouth are now better proportioned, and a series of embellishments to the bust can be seen, such as a fully decorated suit of armor, a spear, a shield. This is one of the most beautiful designs of the late empire in my opinion. Also, just like on our coin, we start seeing the seated Constantinople on the reverse. Oddly enough, however, no Christian imagery on this coin, even though the empire was fully Christianized by the reign of Theodosius II. We can't see a cross, a Cairo, nothing. Of course, other designs had Christian symbols, but it is interesting to imagine how you could show this coin to an old pagan Roman and he wouldn't notice anything particularly unusual in it, despite the empire being a completely different institution by then. So this leads us back to our Solidus here. What we have is a transitional piece, a coin that starts to finally show Christian imagery, finally starts to have a style that could be attributed to medieval coinage, yet it resists to let go of quite a few pagan images, as late as 578 AD. Heading once more to the bust of the emperor, sadly we can see a loss of the refinement of earlier Roman coins, instead having a flat, front-facing bust that resembles Byzantine mosaics. To prove my point, here's a mosaic of Justinian and the coin of the same emperor, side by side. Of course, the mosaic can afford more details and the use of different colors, but we can clearly see that a different style had developed, and it had made its way into the coinage of the time. But look at this, Justin is holding a victory on his hand, not a cross. What kind of pagan heresy is that? Some people identify this as an angel, but this image of the winged angel we have today is a direct evolution and reuse of the old Roman victory, which in turn is the reuse of an even older imagery, the Nike of the Greeks. Here's a Greek tetradrachma struck under Lysimachus, some 900 years before this coin was struck, showing the same winged figure giving a little laurel crown. Money is conservative, as you can see. Heading to the reverse, we once more have this mix of pagan and Christian imagery. The concept of personifying cities was an old pagan tradition, and here we have the incarnation of Constantinople. But to make it very clear it was a Christian city now, she's holding once again the globe cruciger, the crystal globe with a cross on top of it, which symbolized the city was Christian and the idealized rule of the church over the whole world. After Justin II, we will see a definitive break with the pagan iconography on coinage, resorting to fully Christian imagery. So, for example, here we have a couple of examples of solidi struck under the next two emperors after Justin, Tiberius II and Maurice Tiberius. For both of these emperors, the victory they were holding is replaced by the cross, the globe cruciger. On Tiberius' coinage, the Constantinople on the reverse is replaced by a cross on top of a staircase, and on the case of Maurice Tiberius, we still have a victory-like figure here, but she's holding a jewel cross and a globe cruciger. So now the argument is much stronger that this was indeed intended to be a Christian angel. So as we can see, the switch from pagan to Christian coinage was a process that took centuries to happen. Slowly but surely, imagery that fit the Christian doctrine became predominant on coins. But as late as the 6th century AD, we could still find old Roman imagery on coins. Now I want to hear from you, collectors. Have you got a Byzantine coin which still shows signs of pagan imagery? Let us know in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Leave a like if you did. Happy collecting, and I'll see you soon.